We're now on full automatic in the hands of the computers.
Get off my back, my back, my back, my back, my back. Get off my back. Is insane. Oh man! Oh! Whole thing is insane. My back. Get off my back.
I have brought more evil upon you.
I can't help thinking somewhere in the universe there has to be something better than man.
Human beings behaving humanly. Brilliant.
Okay, so welcome back. Today we're going to do Act 1, Scene 1, the tragedy of Julius Caesar, and I'm trying to liven things up a bit because people thought I would have been a little flat in the videos, so I'm going to try a little style here. We'll see if people get past, say, the third minute. I don't know. Maybe it'll be a quiz at the end. So, the scene 1, which you guys are going to read today, it starts out with Flavius and Maurelius, and they are two patricians, or upper-class Romans, and they're chastising, that means yelling at, the commoners, the plebeians, they're blue-collar guys, for taking the day off of work to celebrate the return of Caesar to Rome. So, why are they so mad about it? Well, there's a bunch of reasons that we'll get into later, but basically, they're upset that these guys are taking the day off of work and going through the streets of Rome. And there's the implication that they're drinking and partying and parading on a day that's a work day, right? So remember I said early on that the lower class people like to see themselves, the groundlings in Shakespeare's audience, like to see themselves on stage. So it starts out with this cobbler. And a cobbler is a guy who makes shoes, right? So he's actually talking back and making fun of the upper class guy who's actually a government official. Flavius and Maurelius are both government officials. I think they're praetors. But they're getting a chance to kind of sass him a little bit. And he says, I got the guys out in the street to wear out their shoes. And that's why we're out here on a working day, because I'm a mender of bad souls. And that pun, that lowest form of humor, would have been resonant with the groundlings. And they might have got a chuckle out of the guy sassing the upper class guy. And then also the pun about the shoes. So he doesn't really, want to take to being chastised at first, and they get pretty serious on him really quick. And the reason why they're serious, they're kind of chastising him really for being front runners. They say they're rejoicing the triumph that comes home, and he says, "Wherefore rejoice? What conquest brings he home? What tributaries follow him to Rome to grace in captive bonds his chariot wheels?" Because what they used to do when they captured another country is they'd bring slaves home, basically, conquered people home, tied to the chariots, and they would dress them, like clowns and make fun of them in the streets of Rome. And this was a big hoot for everybody to get out there, kind of like a Super Bowl parade. So they'd seen Pompey come home, and Caesar come home, and Crassus come home, with these phenomenal victories and the spoils of war, and they dragged them by their chariots. So it would be kind of like, we say Winslow decided to invade Hamilton, and we go in there and we bust up the town, and we take all the good-looking women and all the Xboxes and all the PS4s and the iPhones, and we bring them back to Rome as the spoils of war. That's what they're used to. But what's different in this case, right, is that the guy that Caesar has conquered is another Roman. So they're not bringing home anything from these other places. He's like, you blocks, you stones, you worse than senseless things, you hard hearts, you cruel men of Rome. Knew you not Pompey? Like, don't you remember, yesterday you were celebrating him. Yesterday he was Tom Brady that everybody loved, and today you don't even remember his name. You're coming and celebrating this guy who basically killed him. Caesar killed Pompey. So, this is a little bit of, that bringing those chariots home to Rome, right? Okay, new style. We're livening things up. Okay, and Aurelius is reminding them what kind of front runners they are, and he reminds them of the past. He says, to see great Pompey pass the streets of Rome, when you but saw his chariot appear, had you not made a universal shout that Tiber trembled under her banks, to hear the replication of your sounds made in her concave shores. So the echoes of their cheers resonated in the riverbanks because everyone was so happy to see Pompey come home. And then now these scumbags are celebrating the guy who's coming home over after murdering him, after triumphing over his blood is the term that they use. So, he says, now you put on your best attire, now you cull out a holiday, now you strew flowers in his way that comes and triumph over Pompey's blood. Be gone, run to your houses, fall upon your knees, pray to the gods to intermit the plague that needs must light on this ingratitude. So he says, you're so ungrateful that the gods are going to send a plague. And that might sound familiar, right? And you better go home and beg on your knees that they don't, because, Rome will be destroyed by a plague because of your ingratitude. So, they discuss amongst themselves and they talk about, their motives for why they're so angry, right? And Flavius, I used to call him Flava Flav when people knew who that was. He says, it's no matter, let no images be hung with Caesar's trophies. So basically they have these, statues of Caesar out, and he says, go around and pull any decorations people are putting on the statues down. We don't want anyone to celebrate Caesar at this point. And he says, I'll drive away the vulgar from the streets. You do so too, where you perceive them thick. So where you see gathering of people, more than 10 people, less than 6 feet apart maybe, get rid of them and break them up, just like we did with these guys, right? And he uses this image. He says, these growing feathers plucked from Caesar's wing will make him fly an ordinary pitch. Who else would soar above the world of men and keep us all in servile fearfulness? So he uses this image of the wing. And, Caesar is the eagle, and his wing is spread like the photo there, and the commoners or the plebeians are his feathers. And they're going to be the thing that will elevate him and lift him over everyone in the populace, and he'll destroy the democracy in Rome. That's really what they're afraid of with this image. So they set out, and here we have Caesar talking to the plebes, right, or the lower people. Hey, you want to build a new empire? I'm on board. Right, so why would they be so concerned about Caesar at this time? Well, Roman generals, right? They come across the river with their army, right? Just like Bernie was bothering you, right? I'm coming to you to ask again. Well, now we have, the Roman general telling you he's not asking, and now I got my sword and my helmet, and I'm coming across the river, because that's what Caesar did, right? So Flavius and Aurelius go, and they're supposed to take all the decorations off the statues and break up the crowd. So you see I have the laurel leaf there. They would take that and put it on Caesar's bust so that he looked like, well, wait, that's the wrong one. No, not like that. Like this, right? So they leave it with, let no images be hung with Caesar's trophies. So they're going to go and strip these decorations off and see if they can put down this celebration of Julius Caesar, which is making them so nervous about the fate of their democracy. So meanwhile, in the news, we have our Greta Thunberg. She's still around, coming back at us with the Romans here, right? So read this scene 1. It's very short. Get your feet wet, get used to it, and then tomorrow we'll get into scene 2.